what are we experiencing today? So we've had this virtual FXT moving along. I had early versions of it this summer. I was talking to customers and so on and so forth, and we've been trying to figure out, okay, what is it that they're going to do out of the gate? We've had the gamut of people. Like we've had a couple customers that say we're going to replace all of our NAS with Amazon S3. That's good, and I hope that works. I really do, and I hope we're part of that. And then we have these other people that are working on computational projects, and they're saying, look, we've got a data center that's running all the time. We're not touching that. However, you know what? The next movie we make, it would be nice to not have to ship, 50 servers and racks and power and everything at the last minute because our schedule slipped. And so we'll call that cloud bursting for now, okay? And ultimately, cloud bursting would be, your ability to scale compute into a cloud entity based on, capacity, time, and cost to do so. And I have a nifty, horribly drawn graphic that I'll take credit for that kind of gives you the feel. So it's a timeline. I've got a project. I've got to render some stuff. I've got to sequence some genes. I've got to come up with a new formula for some pharmaceutical
it's a typical thing. Saturday for me.
Right. So, and I figure I've got 10,000 cores. It'll take me N time to do, right? But I forgot I have a boss. Okay, and so the boss comes somewhere in the middle of the project and says, oh, by the way, here's all these changes to the variables of what you're going to do, and your budget's now lower, and oh, by the way, et cetera. And so this iterates a few times to the point where you're, a wee bit upset at that. But you still have to meet your deadline. So what would you do in the classic sense? Assuming you still had the budget. Let's say your boss was merciful. You'd have to order your compute. You'd have to get it shipped. You'd have to get the racks and stack them and power them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The burst is really attractive for that problem because I can take out a loan, I can lease compute for a period of time and do what I need to do. And it may be that I do exactly what I would do on-prem. It may be that I offload certain types of tasks that are far less mission critical to the cloud. But the point is I'm able to take advantage of it to meet my deadline. And it's automatically elastic, which means that I can add a number of compute nodes as I need to. Oh, I did put the vision slide in. Yes. All right. So the vision slide is ultimately, if you're talking to somebody that's doing rendering like that, not so much because it's a very practical, we're working on this movie and we have a couple of locations and we have to do what we have to do, and it's pretty straightforward. When you're talking to an enterprise, it's multivariate. There's lots of locations. There's lots of challenges. We by no means have all the solutions to those challenges today, as is evidenced, like we're talking about the ESXi variant of this thing. And ultimately, it's all about providing access. And in this particular model, this is slightly different, I would say, than sort of like the riverbedish type backup model. This is about being able to run my compute, my applications, maybe even my home directories and other things in an infrastructure that's ubiquitous to me. I no longer necessarily have to own the whole data center, right? And ultimately, we see that world being able to be framed by our FXT or our virtual FXT to frame those WAN links and to provide that remote access and to really, wouldn't it be nice? I'm putting up a new remote office. I drop in my VMware ESXi unit with the router, et cetera, and then I just push a button and I've spun up my virtual FXTs ready to go. I'm connected to my home directory. So I think that's the last. Oh, it is.
Hey Scott, what's the minimum cluster size then?
Minimum cluster size is 3.
So 3 FXT nodes or 3 virtual FXT nodes?
3 of either flavor, yeah.
Hey, I know you said that you can't have a single cluster with on-prem and off-prem nodes in it. When, I appreciate this is future talk, when you have a virtual FXT that will run on ESXi and the likes, will you be able to cluster virtual and physical within the same cluster?
I don't see any technical
limitation.
I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea based on now you have a performance management problem because bare metal versus virtual, they're going to have different characteristics. And now, the whole idea of a cluster is to kind of present this single entity, and now you have to kind of mentally split that entity in two and be like, all right, user Joe, you're going to use the ESX nodes because you don't need that much performance, and John he's the performance guy, so he can go straight to bare metal. Oh, and you guys can't use this set of IP addresses or whatever, and that kind of stuff. So it introduces a little bit of a performance management problem.
Well, and what we were thinking there was, if you would look at this, like, let's say we engaged as Avere to this customer, we would assess those sites, and there would be some sort of litmus that says, okay, if you're above this line in terms of your performance, concurrent clients, demand, and you're below this line in terms of your network link, et cetera, you probably need a physical solution from us. If you're a SOHO, probably virtual is good enough, and we just need to bind you up to the core. So.
Quick question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Everything you said, I've not heard anything said about Microsoft's Hyper-V. Should I understand that all your solutions are for VMware at this point in time?
No. So right now today, just to be very clear, right now today, the virtual solution that we have is the one that will run in Amazon EC2. Okay. So it's up in Amazon's cloud. Over time, the context of the conversation was, what do we do about the bottom left of the screen where we start to get into small offices that are part of a larger enterprise? The answer is, well, we have to look at other hypervisors running our intellectual property virtually there as well. ESXi is one option, Hyper-V is another option, Zen is another option. We don't know the answer to that path just yet. There's certainly been a lot of talk inside the company about which direction we want to go. And the decision right now today was, we've got so many people asking for Amazon access, a lot of people asking for other access as well, that we need to make some strategic decisions about how we make our investments there. But Hyper-V is not by any means off.
Yeah, it's not off the table at all. Yeah.
By the way,
Azure.
Microsoft also has this very nice public cloud called Azure,
which uses Hyper-V. Yeah.
We've had discussions about as well.
Right. So, but to clarify, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So today you don't have a solution for Hyper-V?
No.
You don't have a solution for anything but Amazon.
Correct.
For a virtual appliance.
No, I'm talking for a virtual appliance.
Yeah. Now,
Physical appliance.
Physical appliance.
It doesn't matter.
Enterprises?
Non-traditional enterprises. So you talk about a lot about rendering, you talk about genome and blah, 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 but it's not the enterprise kind of workloads. So you are not targeting the
not the general purpose enterprise. Yeah.
You are not targeting the enterprise, where SXI and Hyper-V are much more...
Which is why it came up, because we are talking to enterprises. We have our equipment in very large enterprises that are trying to figure out their path forward. And some of those large enterprises have ESXi infrastructures. But we don't want to oversell where we are today. We're still learning with them about how they might roll it out. They're not 100% sure how it's going to go. We're not 100% sure how they're going to go. But we'll certainly take their lead as they come up with their solution. What is our customer count? You'd think I'd know that off the top of my head. I want to say lots, but that would be 100 and...
That's about 100, I guess.
It's over 100 customers.
So over 100 customers.
And they're spread across verticals. We have a lot in rendering, but we also have a lot in...
Yeah, I mean, the enterprises have also very... they have specific application stacks that they've found homes for our solutions and to solve those problems.
So don't get me wrong.
That's why I differentiate general purpose.
What I'm seeing is that you have a very small set of customers today, probably with very high-end requisites in terms of kind of workloads. Mm-hmm. So you are not seeing the whole enterprise market today. You are seeing a very few verticals. This is why probably you are accessing Amazon today, which is not something that traditional enterprises or...
So I take your point very well. So we have a lot of energy in the compute side of the equation with these different applications, geospatial analysis, seismic processing, et cetera, that all have sort of that model of pipeline application, transcoding, right? I would say, though, and I'm being wary because I'm not sure who I'm allowed to say and not say, that we are having very, very, very specific conversations with large enterprises about these types of applications. But they're at the place where, well, where do we start? So they're going to start in the top left, go into the top right. You know what I mean? But what we see, that's the problem with vision slides, right, is it's a vision. What we see is this evolution that there's eventually going to be pressure about, well, how do I get these other people connected? And, unless I have perfect networking, I'm going to have to find a solution. So
Hey, where are you guys and where are your customers with OpenStack and Swift and things like that?
So we did a full analysis. I was down to OpenStack Summit in April. Think of it this way. If you had a customer today, not you or whoever, and they wanted to do computational analysis against an NFS export, they could stand up an OpenStack Nova cluster today and mount our physical FXTs, and you're off to the races. That would work, right? We don't yet support SwiftStack. We've had conversations with SwiftStack about various things, and of course there's Ceph as well that's been brought up. To be quite brutally honest, I mean, most of the energy, you've seen who we've announced partnerships with, right? We've had a lot of activity and energy in those spaces and a lot of demand, right? We haven't yet seen tremendous demand to take OpenStack, for example, over an Amazon or a Google or an Azure. I'm not sure where that's going to go, to be honest with you. Rackspace has had some challenges. What we are interested in is, I mean, there are some very large players. I had another marketing slide I didn't put up there. I called them the giant contenders with very deep pockets. One of them, had a computer that played on Jeopardy. That's the best way I can say it, right? Who are going into these spaces. And so we're watching extremely closely. I mean, after all, Swift does have an S3 interface, right? So.
Couple questions.
Yes.
So you've talked to us about, I'll say traditional NAS as you cache in front of it, which you've been doing for a while. Mm-hmm. You're now talking about object in all of its wonderful flavors. Sort of to a point that was discussed earlier about enterprise, are you thinking block anywhere along the line? And then I have a completely unrelated question after that.
No.
Okay. Or files.
Okay.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because I was just looking at Riverbit's Steel Fusion, which is just the reverse of what you guys do.
Yeah.
You're doing blocks and you guys are doing files.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had a couple of customers ask, but it just hasn't been compelling enough. I mean, you can't.
That's okay.
We don't want to spread ourselves too wide, right?
Exactly.
So.
Also, and a lot of the block-based applications are kind of point-to-point to a certain extent with a LUN, right? Mm-hmm. So the sharing model, the vision that we have, it doesn't really gel that.
Right. Okay. Second question, unrelated to that, but when you talk about, some customers might want to take the virtual route, the VFXT. Some might want to go with the physical. Do you have any kind of tool that says, "Oh, let's run this analysis on your stuff, and then we'll recommend you go this way or that way"?
Hero. We've been talking a lot about. We are going to be investing heavily in understanding use case driven solution, because at the end of the day, I think you're making a great point, and that is, there was a time where it was like, how many boxes can I give you, right? It's not about the boxes, right? It's about the software. It's about controlling the software. It's about integrating that software into an overall architecture that makes sense, that provides not just the throughput, but also the application experience, right? And so, we just literally had this conversation last night about a couple of different verticals. It's like, we really want to start quantifying and standing up use cases and testing those, not only in the physical FXT world against maybe an object store, but also in the Amazon world, because it's going to be different. We know that. And so we want to create iterative learning loops to further improve our space that would then further inform how we could come up with those types of tools.
But to answer your question, there's no magic tool that you kind of just plop into a customer's network and it becomes aware of everything that's going on, and then spits out.
I could get the slide size button.
5-node cluster that configured, that's a very complex problem to solve. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it would be a fantastic problem to solve because it would make the sales process a lot easier. But it's just a very hard nut to crack, and I think other storage vendors also would agree.